So the weapon-mounted light is used just for engagement. And quite frankly, you're using this to search and stuff like that, and the gunfight starts, drop it on the ground. Transition to your weapon-mounted light. Okay, see, that school's over. It's all solved, right? The thing about this is you can use it and hold it out away from you and do different things. You could sit it down on the counter and step back away and do things like that. The weapon-mounted light is attached to the weapon. Where the light points, the muzzle points. So, though it has utility when trying to engage, it has a lot of setbacks when you're trying to use it as a lighting device. So I think the best thing to think about is the weapon-mounted light is a weapon. And the handheld light is a search and identification device. That's kind of my simplistic view of it. Reduced light handgun. I call it reduced light instead of nighttime and all that kind of stuff because folks, understand something. I have a little background in working in a reduced light environment. I spent a sizable amount of my police career on the night shift, both in patrol and in vice and in narcotics and stuff like that, working the night shift because that's when the worms and vermin and all that kind of stuff is out and about. What I discovered, and Bucky, you jump in here whenever you want. What I discovered about being out at nighttime wasn't that it was too dark to see. It was the dark pockets. Like you look down this alley right here, and you can see it's an alley, and you could see if somebody was down the center of the alley, but what can't you see over to the left? Around that corner. In these dark pockets where these doors and alleys are. You might even see someone standing there, but can you see what's in their hands? See, that's the kind of stuff that you've got. You can. There was very seldom a time when I was out and about that I couldn't see what was going on around me, but I couldn't see what was right in there. I couldn't see what was right in there. So it was real simple and easy. Watch this, a high-speed technique. Follow along. And then I would know. It's really as simple as that. Then I would know. And it was nice to be able to do something like that, take a look, and just a quick and then take out of the way. It's not a real complicated thing unless you're teaching a class in which making it complicated and sound sexy is profitable to you. And at the very end, I'm going to give you my theory of working in reduced light. So that's the problem we have. It's not reduced light, it's not nighttime, it's inconsistent light. Because your eyes can adjust to darkness, they can adjust to light, but they can't do both. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about some of the principles. First of all, let's talk about combative pistol craft, because that's what we're here for. Again, the primary goal of shooting is to hit. It's not to throw bullets kind of around it. And throughout this week, I keep telling you guys, place your shots, place your shots, place your shots. And how often this week have you just thrown a shot up there and hope it went in the square? Instead of coming up, placing it. Well, you know, it would slow me down a little bit. Yep, fast miss is good. Fast miss, slow hit. Right? Yeah. That's the whole function, is to hit. Hitting fast and accurate in daylight is problematic. You already know that. You've been doing it all week. It's problematic in daylight. Reduced or inconsistent light only confounds the problem. Combative pistol craft essential skills are necessary. They don't change just because you put a flashlight in your hand. And much of what we're going to do this evening is going to be essential skills with a flashlight in your hand. Because this is directed at you guys in the Walmart parking lot. This is not directed as you guys Navy SEALs. Okay? Keep that in mind. Are you leaving? I don't care anything. Okay. We already talked about what is essential. It's absolutely necessary. That's why I don't like the word fundamental. I truly think we have made the word fundamental unimportant by overusing it. That's why I like the word essential better, because words are important and it's more verbally, visually descriptive. of how important these skills are when you say these are essential. So, fortunately, it's kind of starting to catch on. All right, combative pistol craft essentials. You guys know what these are. They must be mastered to employ the combative pistol. You can't be thinking about these skills and use them in a gunfight. Let's say this guy's trying to save my life, but I need to be thinking about my trigger. No, you can't. Your trigger needs to be running on automaticity. You guys got that. Grip, trigger, control, body position, weapon alignment. It doesn't change regardless of lighting conditions. Follow through is the same, lighting conditions. None of that stuff changes just because it's not really bright out and you've got a flashlight in your hand. Skill manipulation, holster skills, reloading, malfunction clearances, that stuff still all applies. And it doesn't change just because you have a flashlight in your hand. Or it's hard to see. But I am sure, I know Eric, in your case, that your bad guy is going to take pity on you and he's going to be an easier on you because it's nighttime. Because it's nighttime, he's going to give you a break. You're good.
When you say follow through, prep for the next shot, you mean
Pow.
like the reset and recoil?
And you're ready to go.
Okay.
Follow through is always setting up the next shot if you need it. Right? You never assume you're going to shoot again, but if you have to, you're ready.
Okay.
Harsh reality. All techniques or tactics, regardless of day or reduced light, are situationally dependent. Circumstance dictates. The ability to adapt, to change as necessary, to be adaptive. It doesn't change just because. Is the soap opera starting or boss is calling? So, we're going to adapt. Remember what the goal of combative pistol craft is. We defined that on the first morning. Enable a typically skilled individual to prevail by killing his adversarial combatants. Let me turn off the overhead lights. Why reduce light training? Let's examine this pretty quickly. Number one, increase your ability to prevail and reduce armed confrontation. That's a given, right? Trying to make you better. Number two, facilitate correct decision making while under stress and reduce light. Understand basic tactical lighting principles, understand proper use of lighting devices. We're not going to have a lot of time to get into any of that. If you've had this kind of training before, it's going to be a nice little reminder. If you have never had this type of training, it's going to make you realize I need to get more. And there's people out there doing good work with that. There's no surveys of armed citizens, so we have to kind of look at law enforcement officer deaths. The typical law enforcement officer killed is male, mid-career, 37 years old, 5'10", 200 pounds. Causative factors, poor tactics. The older the cop gets, the more time he's on the job. He doesn't really do it like he should. Number two, he's overconfident. You guys don't know anybody that suffers the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? We all have some Dunning-Kruger because we all think we're better than we really are. Myself included, we all do that, all right? Complacent. And nothing's ever happened before, it's not going to happen now. And rushing in because they're impatient. Let me tell you guys something, I'll give you a little clue about, just kind of on my observation of life. Don't be in a hurry to get killed. Make sense? Let that take a while. Slow that down a little bit. 60% of the deaths occur during hours of reduced light. That is when the bad guys tend to prowl, tend to do their trade. What is the one lone exception to that?
Active shooters. Active shooters.
No.
Burglaries.
Well, active shooters kind of its own weird.
Burglary.
Residential burglary. That happens during the day. 40% of deaths specifically identified reduced light as a factor in the death. Flashlight was only used 10% of the time and could have been a contributing factor. And the average time since last reduced light training was 4 months. When was the last time you had reduced light training?
2 years.
2 years. Okay? That's if you've had any, right? Armed citizens. Tom Gibbons, Rangemaster, in a survey of 60, I think it's 64 now, of his students in his confrontations revealed that there was never a flashlight use, ever. Nobody pulled their tactical flashlight up out of their flat and got into their perfect hairy stance and engaged the person. Tom told me the vast majority of time with his students, The flashlight was used for finding their keys, which is not a bad reason to have a flashlight with you, right? Opening doors, you know, looking for things. You're still identifying, doesn't mean you're looking for a threat, but you're looking. It's not a bad idea to have it.
Guys, years ago, cops, before we had the small bright lights on our belts and things now, especially if you worked at night and you had to jump out on a hot call, a lot of the big flashlights, we had them in between the seat and the center console. You jump out of that car, a lot of times you'd forget it, leave it behind there. And many times people would ask, you know, supervisors come asking you whatever, well, where was your flashlight? You know, where was your light? Well, it was back in the car. We didn't have the little bright lights on our belts like we do nowadays. And most of the time, the street lights, especially I worked in a city and urban environment, the one times that I did get a little nervous about not having a light and realized people were walking up on me is out in the country. It was DAF, figure out what that means. That stuff was really unnerving. But bright moonlight also helped a lot of times, but we're going to get to this, but as I got older, I really do appreciate a good flashlight.
In my own research, I have found the use of flashlight to be rare and non-existent, especially with the armed citizen. Everybody cares them, everybody has them, everybody likes them, me too. I'm a flashlight geek, no doubt about it. But seldom are they used in this type of situation because it tends to break out too fast. The few situations I know where a flashlight was used in the fight, it was already in their hand. It was never dug out of their pocket that I know of. Okay. That said, it's still good to know how to use a handheld light in conjunction with a flashlight, and that's what we're going to show you tonight. You know why we're going to do that?
Because you're a hell of a
You
guy.
paid me. The human eye. Guys, I'm not going to go into a real in-depth lecture on the rods and the cones and how the lights and all that stuff affects the eyes. If you thought myelination was bad, this right here would make you want to put your head in a vice. If you're interested in that type of stuff, it is all over the internet, how the eye works and all that kind of stuff. We're going to keep it very general so we can get on the range and get going. I will add to you though, there are 3 types of vision, and that is worth knowing. The first is photopic, and that's daylight-like conditions. Sharp contrast, excellent vision, high concentration of cones in the central vision is responsible for vision in bright light. High level light bleaches out chemical rhodopsin, which is known as visual purple. Okay? You can look all that stuff up in the rods, causing them to be less effective. This is the way your eyes want to work. This is bright sunshine. This was all day long we were out there today. Now, when we say this, we're talking about 25-year-old eyes. Okay? The typical person that's got really great vision at 25. I never had good vision. I always wore glasses and everything. So there is mesopic vision, and that occurs during dawn, dusk, or full moonlight. Vision is achieved through a combination of rods and cones. Important to consider, rods are just starting to build up rhodopsin level faster than they are being bleached out. Color perception decreases and visual acuity requires off-center viewing. Have you ever been out like at dusk or dawn and you're looking at something and something catches the side of your eye, and when you look at it, it's gone? That shifts from rod to cones. It tends to go on the side. When I was in the police academy, we were taught situations like that. You kept your eyes going back and forth like this, and the idea was that you hoped you caught things. To the best, it never worked well for me. But it sounded like something you could teach and whatever. Then scotopic vision, which is achieved when the cones become ineffective, poor resolution or detail. Visual acuity is 2200, which means you're legally blind. Color perception is non-existent. You have a blind spot 5 to 10 degrees right in front of your eye. Right in front of your eye. And perception of fine details is impossible. And this code right here goes into where the rods and the cones are located. And again, I'm not going to get into that. You guys can look that up. Let's talk about factors affecting reduced light vision. Age. Age. This is going to be hard for you guys to believe, but as you get older, your eyes get worse. Yes. You didn't know that, did you?
My dad, when he was working on things, I always thought it was really weird as a kid. I'm standing there and could see exactly what he's doing. all of a sudden they reach up and push me out of the way and say, "You're in my light." And I'm thinking, I can see it just fine, but you're in my light, so I get that.
Every 13 years, the amount of light a person requires to see in the dark doubles. Every 13 years. A little more than a decade. Alcohol consumption. Well, that's why I'm toast. Lack of vitamin A, smoking. Smoking is a big factor. If you're going to be doing some kind of reduced light operation, when I was working narcotics, we was getting ready to go on a raid, they were not allowed to smoke. Not before we left. I had some guys a little jittery, but that was the rule. You didn't smoke. Sudden exposure to bright light. That's hard to believe, right? When you're in the dark, somebody flips the lights on or gives you one of these with a flashlight. That's fun, isn't it? Yeah, so that's not a big surprise to anybody. You should note it takes 20 to 40 minutes for the eyes to properly adjust to darkness. It takes less than a minute for them to readjust to the light. So you spend all that time getting your night vision ready to go. You go out on your raid or whatever you're going to do, and some dumbass comes in, flips on the light. Hey, what's going on? If you're going to go into a reduced light situation, you think you're going to need night vision, protect your eyes. Why use a light? Normal vision is 20/20. You've all heard that. Visual acuity drops to 2400 to 2600 when the eyes are using the rods to create an image. And that means you're trying to use night vision. What is 2400? A person with 20/20 vision can be 400 feet from a sign to read it. A person with 2400 must be 20 feet away to read it. So for most of us, in the dark, you're legally blind. Okay? You must see a target to shoot it. You guys all got that. You cannot shoot what you cannot see, and you must ID it as a threat before you can shoot it. I remember very clearly when my two daughters were high school girls, and there were boys that came over. Hard to believe, right? Hard to believe. And I had to be very careful when I got up in the middle of the night because something caught my attention. I'd go out because you never knew, number one, what was going on out there. So I was pretty loud about it. You know, wanted to separate before I got there. And you never knew when one of them was drunk and my daughter told them to sleep on the couch and didn't say anything to their mom or I and things like that. Nowadays, it's just my wife and I. That whole empty nest syndrome, it ain't that bad. Just letting you know.
As long as you like your spouse.
It ain't that bad. Yeah, well, you gotta like your wife.
Yeah, you
If
have
you
to
don't
like your wife.
it'd probably be pretty
Love is
miserable.
easy, like is hard.
But nowadays, if I got up and there's somebody out there sleeping on the couch, they're not supposed to be there. Okay, so it makes life a lot easier. So you got to identify it as a threat before you can engage it. Flashlight techniques, there's a bunch. There's a bunch. I have seen a boatload of them over the years. Come and go, different things. And I'll be perfectly frank with you. Bucky, how do I want to say this in a way that'll be judicious? I know. Most of them are bullshit.
Face the camera.
Most of them are flipping useless, quite frankly. Okay? We're going to talk about the ones that I like best because we have a short night and are all rear tail cap adaptive. Okay? Nothing to the side of it, no twisting knobs, everything is on and off tail cap. Okay? That is the best way to do that. It's the best way to have a light. Number one, Harry's technique. Harry's, Michael Harry's, was one of Gunsight's original instructors, and this was back in the days when everything was a hard weaver. A really hard weaver. You were bladed, this arm was bent down to the ground, you punched into your hand. So Harry's was looking for a way to apply that to a flashlight. And basically what he did is he just took the back of the shooting hand wrist to the back of the light wrist, and you rotated the elbow down to create isometric tension. And that was the Harry's technique. This is not the Harry's technique. This is some weird tabletop arm thing that you're doing. This is the Harry's technique. Okay? We'll show you that. We'll play with that in on the range because it has some use. Okay? The Rogers Surefire technique. I'm going to show you this, though we're not going to deal much with it tonight. And the reason why is you've got to, let me see your light there, Dan. You've got to have a special light to use it well, and they're shaped like this. They've got this rubber grommet. Because basically what you're doing, you're putting the flashlight in your hand like a syringe. And the tail cap is against that large muscle right here. These fingers kind of step out straight, and I'm not going to flash it on you guys. But then you try to tuck your shooting hand in here like this, and you squeeze it down. And that's the syringe technique. Okay, Surefire, Rogers. I had to give everybody credit because everybody laid claim to it.
Why is it called Surefire?
Because Surefire made a light for it, and they said it was their technique.
Oh, I see.
Rogers said it was his technique first because he wrapped rubber bands around it.
Okay.
And then who else laid
Bill
claim?
Rogers?
Oh, it was a syringe, yes, Bill Rogers. Then there was a syringe technique because someone else laid claim to it first.
Okay.
There's no ego in the firearms training arena. Okay, the FBI technique. This was poo-pooed for the longest time. Everybody thought it was stupid. And basically what it was a technique to get the light out away from you, so because they'll shoot at the light. But it could be here, it could be here, it could be over here, above your head. It's just the light away from you. And I always thought it was pretty neat. I can remember we were searching for a burglar in a shopping center, like 3 or 4 in the morning. And I came to the corner of the shopping center. This was a road and a sidewalk behind it. And I don't know why I did it, but when I came out like this to look down this part of the alley, I went out like that and around went.
Oh, wow.
So I remember, I'm glad I didn't come out and do the night watchman thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's a pretty neat technique,
Same here.
okay? So we're going to talk about that. Another one we're going to talk about is the shoulder mount neck index. This is another one that's got a whole lot of people saying they thought of it. And it's absolute horseshit because I can remember putting my big old kill light. It was actually Kell light. The community called it a kill light. But it sat on your shoulder like this, and you activated the tail switch and you hit people with it. So the idea that somebody comes along and now the flashlights are short and they thought of this, well, that's hokum. We were doing this back in the 60s and the 70s, but it's one of the techniques. The nice thing about it is that you get it back here like this, you light it up, it's along your vision or your eye target line, and when you light up, not only do you light up the suspect, the area down there, you light up your gun and your sights. So everything's done pretty much together. What's the bad thing about it? Light's right next to your face. But then, is there not a good and bad for everything? Now here's another one. Matt Graham, a former air marshal. He had a technique and it required a certain kind of a flashlight. And what he did was he had kind of a grommet thing, but it was way to the bottom of the flashlight. And what he advocated is the light was here, and then you pressed it up against your hand. That was around the grip of your pistol, and you lit it up like this. And it had some applicability, but you had to get the little ring gizmo right here, and so you could have it. And it already had to be in your hand like this when you engage, and nobody walks around with the light like this. So it had to be set up so you could use it. Once you got it set up, it wasn't bad, but it was kind of his way to have a weapon light and a handheld light function as the same. But it was the setup so you could use it was the downside. So we don't have any flashlights set up for it. We're not going to mess with it. Now, the harsh reality. No matter which flashlight technique you use, it's one-handed technique. Doesn't matter what you do to put it together or wrap it up, when you fire and the gun recoils, it comes apart. You'll find out in the arm yourself. They're all one-hand techniques.
And they start going like this.
Yeah, they torque and twist and all that. They're all one-handed techniques. Well, that's a one-handed technique. This is a two-handed. No, it's not. No, it's not. You're going to get you the Harrys. I don't care how much you torque that elbow down trying to create that isometric tension. When you fire that gun, it's going to go boom. You're going to find out on your own. I'm not going to try. You're going to find out. Just the way it is. Okay? Your hands will likely come apart due to recoil, and maybe adaptability is more important. What allows you to be more adaptive as you do whatever it is? And maybe, just maybe, a combination of techniques is a better way to go anyway. So maybe you ought to have a battery of techniques where one allows you to flow to another based on a rapidly changing circumstance. Conflict dynamics. 4 things are going to happen in a flashlight situation. Number 1, the weapon only will be out. You won't have the flashlight where you can use it. Number 2, the flashlight will be in a position you can use it, but your gun will be in the holster. Another one, both the weapon and the flashlight are already be deployed, ready to go. Or neither one will be ready. How do you get there from here? See? Whole lot of dynamics we don't really think about.
A lot of cops guys, when he was talking about having just a flashlight, a lot of cops, especially even on place found open, especially if they've been chastised by a supervisor or something about having their gun out all the time, they'll go in buildings and check buildings and things, just a flashlight. And Dave always talks about it being the security guard syndrome, right? Of just wandering around goofy with the flashlight, looking around, not realizing, holy shit, that alarm got set off for a reason. And you're thinking it's a false alarm kind of deal, and you walk around nonchalant, and you don't go to Code Brown any faster when you turn a corner and you don't think you're going to see somebody, and there's somebody that's not supposed to be there, and you have no gun in your hand, just a flashlight. Or you're thinking, I've been here before, been in this building before, damn thing goes off all the time. You know where everything is, you don't get your flashlight out, and you definitely don't have your gun out, and you go in that time, you haven't checked, and there's that ninja standing right there. You're like, I don't have anything. So that's, I've been in both those situations. And we've also got young guys, right? We got some young guys that want to have that gun out for everything. So you got to think about that. And in circumstances, what we're talking about, more like with most of you guys, it's inside of your own house.
You're standing here like this, you got your gun in your holster, or your holster where it is, maybe it's concealed. You got your tactical flashlight here in your pocket because you feel good about it. Right? You guys know how long it takes you to draw and get that hit on target. And some of you make 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, something like that. How fast do you think it takes you to draw the gun from concealment, dig the flashlight out of your pocket, set up your flashlight technique, and fire a shot?
67 seconds.
At least double, or at least 45.
We've timed it several of the reduced light classes I've done. People with good holster skills, it's 5-6 seconds. Add on there 2 or 3 seconds of lag time to identify the threat. You think 8, 9, 10 seconds is a fight-winning time? So, just saying.
We saw you shoot that drill today in 9 seconds. Hoorah.
Yeah, that's about how long it would take me to get into this position right here to fire my first shot. A flashlight position must allow the combatant to, number 1, search a variety of areas while moving the light where needed to illuminate and search. Keep in mind the search positions must be adaptive. You may have to do all kinds of different stuff. If you're married just to this, you might as well have a weapon mounted light. Because where's the light going?
Where the weapon's going.
Where the muzzle's going, right? So this may not be the best position no matter what gun sight says. But when I was out there again, this is the only technique they teach. Okay? Defend the head with the light. Somebody attacks you, can you defend your head with your light? Can you strike with the light? You know, if you got the light in your hand like this, what kind of weapon does it make? Or the syringe, what kind of weapon does it make? If you got it in your hand like this, I didn't mean to do that, my apologies. Could you strike with it? Yeah, you can do something with it. I could use the tail cap or the head. Guys, one thing I'll tell you, the ones that have those sharp strike bezels, I'm not a fan of those. You start carving on somebody's head with it, it's just like using a knife. I'd rather have something blunt and punch on them, because I can actually say, no, this wasn't a weapon, it was a flashlight, it was a weapon of opportunity. If it's got little slash cutouts and blades on it, how are you going to say it was a weapon of opportunity?
And the bezels were only designed to let you know when the light was on, when it was face down. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Strike with it, we already talked about that. Shoot with it from medium to longer ranges. Extend the shooting platform. Shoot with it at extremely close range if you need to. So you got to think a lot of things about the fighting flashlight, not just something you get up with and search in the middle of the night. Now, these are the principles of reduced light combatives from the Surefire Institute, which unfortunately no longer exists. So number one, read the light. Assess varying levels of light. What can you see? What is partially lit? Are you backlit? The assessment will determine whether you use the light, blink the light, or leave it off. What do you guys see in that picture?
Sunlight coming in the window.
It's like a hostage.
There's a hostage sitting in the corner. But you see how she kind of blends in with the light? Yeah. Something like that would be real easy, just to and do something like that and totally miss them. So you got to truly see what you are seeing. Dark holes are dangerous. Remember I already said that? That's the problem, is inconsistent light. It's light here, it's dark there, or there's a person standing in the light and you see this wash coming over them, but you can't see their hands. So that's the problem you got. Is it too dark to see? If you can't see it, like, do that. It's probably where the threat will hide, and I think it's not an unsound practice to think that all dark holes are potential threats. Now, I wouldn't be throwing hand grenades into each one, or launching, you know, a full magazine of ammo into it, because it might be where the little kid hid because they were afraid. So keep that in mind, but it's certainly something you don't want to walk past. See things from the attacker's viewpoint, or try to see things. You're searching this building and you're looking around, you think, now if I was the bad guy, where would I hide? It's one of the reasons during interactive training it's very, very valuable to sometimes play the bad guy. Because it makes you think a little bit different. Like you're going into that warehouse to hide, to wait to ambush those guys that are searching for you. You can get pretty ingenious. And that's not necessarily a bad exercise. So try to see things from the attacker's viewpoint.
You guys ever been in a town where you're on vacation or something and you're trying to go back from the restaurant or back to the hotel or something, you realize maybe you stepped onto the wrong block, and trying not to draw too much attention. You've all done this. You tried to snake around, kind of not exactly under the street light. If you do get under there, you guys know what I'm talking about, but trying to stay kind of hidden. Well, bad guys think the same way. Last night we talked about this as well. Figure out, and I've told this story last night as well, I've seen cops literally come to blows in situations because of a cop who's kind of nervous and amped up and constantly pulsing their flashlight and backlighting each other. I've had guys literally turn around and grab each other and threaten the other guy like, you backlight me again, I swear to God I'm going to kill you. Because of things like that, how do you look to a bad guy? And the cops get upset is because you backlight somebody or you're not conscious of what is behind you, you're now a great target, a great silhouette for them to see. It takes some thinking. It really does.
Time in light is time as a target. If you can just do something like this and step back in the shadow, you're better off. But you got to think like that. You got to understand that kind of stuff. Move out of backlit areas. Darkness provides some concealment. Reduce your attacker's ability to see you while improving your ability to see them. Light and move. Light and move. If you do light something up, don't be there the next time you light it. Or maybe you light it here and then you take a knee. But try not to be where the bullet is likely to go. So when you use the light, try to move if you can. Learn to paint a pathway. What we're talking about there is you got a large area like this. Well, you don't want to do and be doing something like that, but what you can do is and then move. If there's a big glob of person right there in that hallway, you're going to probably see them. But you don't want to be standing there and just holding that light on because they're going to know where you're at. Understand this is just a big cone that tells them exactly where you're standing. Okay? Intermittent use of the light at random heights. Don't be doing the night watchman, you know, where you're walking through and doing all that. You know, give it a little spot, change your position, maybe go up here like this, change it out. Just try to be inconsistent in your search or whatever you're trying to do. Activate the light away from your center line. We've talked about that FBI technique. Intermittent and irregular use of light. Just don't, again, it's the whole night watchman syndrome. You want to stay away from that.
Dave, how much, because that principle 6 with the attacker will shoot out the light, that comes up a lot, especially when we start talking about like a neck index or something like that. People get really, really upset about that because, oh, they're shooting the light, you know, they're going to shoot the light, so they're shooting right at your head. Is there any statistics on how often that actually happens?
It's not often.
That they
Because
shoot
you
the
just
light,
never,
or-
you never hear about it. Everybody talks about it, but you never hear about it.
Yeah.
I mean, keep in mind, boom, boom. How does that happen? I mean, you got to think about it. It's like anything else, Mike. When you're using the flashlight technique, at this point, what is the most important? Lighting him so that you can shoot, or just identifying the threat? It all depends. There's a real good chance that maybe I would use something like this, but if I identified the threat, then I would go here, because it would allow me to shoot. This would be kind of like thinking of it as the handheld weapon light. Because even if you've got a weapon light,
Well, and
it's
that's,
basically in the same position.
and that's the point that I always make to them,
Yeah.
because when we talk about it, again, I always say, I explain the advantages of this position when shooting. Oh, they're gonna shoot the light and you're gonna hit in the head. Okay, well then I guess we're gonna take the light off your gun, because it's basically in the same area.
Exactly.
And you're like, oh,
Here, it's next to your head.
it's right in front
Out
of
here,
you.
it's right in front of your face. So the argument's disingenuous. It makes no sense.
No, that's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at
Yeah.
with it, but I wanted to hear
Yeah,
that.
no, I agree with you 100%. That makes no sense whatsoever. So are they gonna use their pistol out here like this? Even here with the light we have in here,
They tried.
if I open this door and stand here, what do you see?
So that elevator gets to walk.
The vertical coffin.
Laura Croft,
Right.
here.
First one.
What a terrible place to stand. Do not stop in doorways or window. Do not let your partner backlight you. That's what Bucky was just talking about. You know, even having the moon of your back is enough to be backlit. But you know, you don't think about stuff like that. But how are you being seen out there? You know, that's why you want to kind of try to find the dark pockets and use them yourself. However, before you step into the dark pocket, you better make sure nothing's in there. Right? Okay. Dominate with the light. I've got real skeptical thoughts about this. That's always been the thing, is that, you know, flash them in the eyes and dominate it. You're gonna, like that. You know, I have had flashlights put in my eyes my whole life, and I have yet to melt a cornea. If somebody comes up there like that and flash it in your eye, what it's going to do most of the time to me is piss me off. And then I'm going to hold a bunch of bullets right there. So the idea that you're going to just dominate with this light, I don't buy into it. I mean, I think it's a really good thing, and I'm not going to flash on you. But Abner's walking up to me in the parking lot, and he's coming up, and I don't really want to get into a confrontation. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to do that. Are you okay? I get something like that could work. But the idea that you're going to stop him from attacking you because his eyes are going to melt from this 1,000 lumen whatever,
Maybe a last call.
horse manure. But if he's coming up on you and doesn't expect it, that may be just enough to, you know, it's like pepper spray. Pepper spray is a stun and run substance. You don't spray the guy and then stand there and see what's going to happen. While he's getting there snorting and snotting, before he gets pissed off and comes at you, you're gone. That's how I instruct my wife and daughters to use it. Spray the guy, get out of there. Because you will have a few moments where he's going to blow snot and do all that crap. But it ain't going to last very long. Breathe and relax. Worst thing you can do in any confrontation, whether it's reduced light or it's daylight, is to be overwhelmed, to panic, so breathe. Remember we did that autogenic breathing? Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. 10 cycles of that will do amazing things to bringing your heart rate down. So you're in a confrontation, you're starting to get amped up. That'll help. It'll help more than you know. So be prepared to rescue breathe if you need to. And check your 360 regularly. Now, Dave Spaulding's solution to this stuff, from working many years on nights and SWAT and narcotics and vice and looking for people in the bad darkness. There's a lot of people out there that disagree with me, but in all the years I did this, it never failed me once. No matter what the experts say. Turn on the lights! You go into a dark room, not here, but there's a high probability that when it's dark in there, you can hook your arm around like that, hit a light switch, and the lights will come on in this room. What problem did I just solve? Well, you're giving up the advantage of being in the darkness. No, dude. I'm using my eyes the way they were intended. I'm turning the lights on. We actually ran a burglar back to the room we wanted him in by turning on the lights because he was like a rat. Run to the darkness. Finally we got back. Dude, you might as well come out. We know you're in there. It's the only place you could be. Turn on the freaking lights. Why would you want to dance around in the darkness? You're not a Delta Force operator, man. You're a homeowner. Turn the damn lights on. You know, if you're in the Walmart parking lot and you expect something, use the headlights. What do you want? Don't need this anymore. I've done that my whole life. Works great. It's up to you. You can't always get the light switches there, but there's a high probability that that's where they're going to be at. Not always, but if you don't have that luck, then you're to do something like this. But I'm going to make it as light as I can. I have literally walked into places, been in the room, and just reached here and grabbed these things and just ripped them down off the wall. All kinds of light comes in. Did I have to pay for it? No. Most of the places I worked, they didn't even notice.
That's biased.
But turn on the lights. I mean, next time you go to the men's room, do you go? Where'd you go? All right? So that's Dave Spaulding's solution to reduce light operations. Turn on lights, if you can. Right? What we're going to do now is we're going to just go in here, we're going to just do a real brief review.
If that light's out already, or if that gun's out already, especially with the Harriers, watch my hand, red gun, especially with that, watching people do this. Gun's out, and maybe they're moving the light around and they end up doing something like this to get their hands in that position. I was always taught punch underneath, right? Make sure that you're very muzzle aware. And when you're going to work that, especially people don't understand what isometric tension is, I really am pressing the backs of my wrists together to go ahead and get that. The very first one we're going to work on is going to be that, the actual Harry's technique. You should be lined up on one of the targets. One of the things people forget, you don't have to have that flashlight beam, check this out, you don't have to have that flashlight beam perfectly lined up on that target for you to get good shots. The gun is more important to be lined up on that target than the actual flashlight. So you're paying particular attention to both. We're going to work through each one of them. Let's go ahead and draw that weapon out. Be muzzle aware. Let's go ahead and get that flashlight out. And you don't have to pulse the lights, whatever, you don't want to run your batteries and things. That we're more concerned about handling and techniques. Let's go ahead and get into that Harry technique. Punch it underneath, right? That elbow really does crank down to that classic lever, okay? If you can, go ahead and light that tail cap switch up. Can you get a good firing grip? One-handed, obviously, but that isometric tension is supposed to be steadying the gun. Let's also go over what we saw last night. I see this in my own, our own classes in the police world and private contract classes. This is a one-handed shooting technique. Guess what? If you don't hold on to that gun pretty tight, you can induce some malfunctions, some stoppages. So be very mindful of having a good tight grip locked out with the force to be able to have some resistance and work that slide the way it's supposed to. Here we go. So go to a low ready position, right? So let's practice coming up on target. The Harry's technique, the light's on first. Harry's technique, the lights on first. Every time I give you a shoot command, just give me 2 rounds, right? Because I want you to see how that recoil, jumping around with one hand, and see if you have that isometric tension kind of helping you. It still jumps around. Here we go. Watch your target. Be more concerned about the gun being lined up than the light. The light will be there, don't worry. Ready? Shoot! Okay, back to low ready. Kind of his toes, not yours. Look at his chest. Shoot! Okay, last call on Harry. Try to crank that elbow down, see if you can really get some tension on that. Shoot! Now, let's go ahead. We've got enough ammo. Go ahead and separate those hands. Separate those hands. Let's go to a neck index. Let's go to a neck index. Try it in different positions. I'll give you 3 or 4 calls. Try it in a few different spots. See if you can light them up next to you, touching the cheek index, all that. Here we go. Ready? Shoot! Let's do it again. Watch your target. Here we go. Ready? Shoot! One more time. Try it in a different spot. Try it in a different spot on this neck index. Put it in shoulder, neck, base. Okay? Shoot!
We all realize things happen, particularly stoppages. When is a stoppage in a pistol most likely? Hold on, I don't know. One hand.
When you're limp wristing.
People just aren't as stable one-handed, especially if they don't practice it a lot. So now they've got a flashlight in their hand, they haven't practiced a bunch with it, and boom, you got a stoppage. What are we gonna do? What if the gun runs dry? How do you load it? Well, probably just like you guys, I have tried every different light and doohickey and ring and lanyard, all kinds of different stuff. You know, rings where now it's hanging here or a lanyard where it drops down and then you're trying to swing it up. But seldom can you get it back right here as fast as you need it. So, like so many other things in Handgun Combatives, I wasn't satisfied with what I was seeing, so I just started playing. What do I need to do to evacuate this so I can use the primary part of my hand? As you guys know, I inboard manipulate. I like to use these primary fingers right here as much as I can. So, thinking about that, I thought, what do I need to do? Now, I want you to play close attention because this right here is a classified technique at junkyard level. So, you know, that's like DEFCON 87. So, but it is classified. But I realized all I had to do was use my hand the way I was using it anyway. What do I do when I push the tail cap? What if I just did this?
Dadgum. That's some high-speed stuff right there.
How do I recover it? And watch, this is even better.
Mind blown.
Works with little tiny lights. Give me your light. The more traditional multi-light, no problem, same thing. The only way you'll drop it is if you release finger tension. If you keep it tight in your hands and just push down, it'll be there. Pop it back up again. And it's right there always where I need it. If I don't need it, I'm going to put it away. But if I want to have it in my hand, that's where it's going to be. Tap, rack. If I need to load the gun, I can. Pop it back in my hand. It just works really, really well. And when I don't want it, it goes back where it needs to. If I want it, pull it out, go back to it, pop it down, do whatever I need to do, pop it back into my hand. Thank you, Mike. Even a little time like this. Same thing. Matter of in fact, the smaller the light is, the easier it is to use. No, it's not sexy. It won't even make a good Instagram video. But if you want to keep that thing in your hand and do something with your gun, questions, comments, concerns, or death threats?
Shoot one, reload, shoot one. Everybody understand what we're doing? Flashlight technique, your choice. Flashlight technique, your choice. Ready? Shoot! Set it up again. Here we go. Ready? Shoot! We bring it back and get that flashlight manipulated. Here we go. Shoot! All right, guys, remember, you're going to be on target when this shit happens. So be in a flashlight technique, figure out how to manipulate that light out of your hands with your thumb and fingers and get it cleared. Here we go, on target, on target. Ready, shoot! Set it up again. Again, let's remind you, how does that work? Is it here or is it here? I'd say it's here. Letting gravity work. Set it up again. Here we go, on target, how it's going to start. Shoot! All right, as soon as you get it set up, you're going to start out on target. Try a different flashlight technique. Ready? Shoot!
It's like having little brother.
Remember, we started out just doing the basic shooting, right, with the various flashlight techniques. These calls for shooting are just regular, no reloads, no stoppage clearances. I'm going to take you through a couple of calls with the Harries, a couple of calls with the neck index, a couple of calls with the FBI technique. Everybody good to go? Understand what we're going to be doing? Right? Then I'm going to tell you, hey, let's get it set up for reloads, and then we'll get you set up for stoppage clearances, all like we did in the light. We're just now going to actually be doing it in the dark. Anybody have any issues with that? Also, even if your flashlight's going dead, don't worry about that. Probably this person on your left and right, their light's probably still working. You'll be able to see, so don't freak out and turn around and asking a bunch of questions. You'll be fine. All right. Everybody loaded up to be able to get a few calls on each one of these techniques? Got the full magazines? Yep. All right. If one of the magazines you end up shooting dry, we're going to use for your reloads, etc. Here we go. Go ahead and draw to that ready position. Just go ahead.
After you have a couple of runs with each technique together, then we'll be giving you a shot simulation. You'll be doing it individually. When you see that, that'll be your signal fire. Okay? All right.
All right, guys. Here we go. Harry's technique. Okay, lights off, lights off. Let's do Harry's again. Shoot! Let's try neck index. Neck index. Ready? Shoot!
Kill the light if you don't need it. It's not your security blanket.
All right, we're going to do it again. We're going to do it again. Neck index. Stand by. Shoot! FBI technique. On these two different calls that we do, having a different spot. Having a different spot. Here we go. Ready? Shoot!
attention. Pay attention. Here we go.
Watch your targets. Yours, line them up, shoot. Up for a second. All right, now what do you think we're going to get set up for? Reloads. Let's go ahead and get set up. Empty magazine in the gun. One round in the chamber. You're going to shoot one, reload, shoot one. Once you're set, go ahead and get out on target. Flashlight technique of your choice. Flashlight technique of your choice. Shoot one, reload, shoot one. Shoot! Okay, get set up again. Okay, once you get it set up again, go ahead and go up to that ready position. Here we go. Shoot one, reload, shoot one. Ready? Shoot! Let's go ahead, get a completely empty gun. You should have some shell casings. Go ahead and set it up for a stoppage clearance. Set up for a stoppage clearance and using that good old Dave Spaulding grabbing teeth.
Anybody need a demo of that?
Right here.
All right, watch. I only do this for friends.
Grab it.
Ready?
Damn.
Here we go.
Grab the tag. Grab the tag. Jesus said grab the tag.
Grab the tag.
Give it a steak. That's how much my community supports us. As soon as you get it set up, go ahead and go to that low ready position. Once I see those guns out, slides back a little bit. I know you're ready to go. We're going to start out on target. This is where it's going to happen.
Just help off of the floor with that light. You're blinding me, man.
Very touchy.
This is where it's going to happen. On target, on target, on target. Flashlight technique of your choice. Shoot! Oh shit! Let's set it up again. All right, guys, as soon as you're ready, you're going to start back out up on target. Flashlight technique of your choice. Here we go. Ready? Shoot! Oh shit! Where? Alright, I think you get the point. I think you get the point. Questions on any of that? Questions on any of that?
Thank you for the instruction. Downrange, downrange, downrange.
All right, guys, if you would take the walk of shame because you got a relay coming behind you. But for the most part, you are done for the evening. You may collect your gear and head on out. We'll see you at 9 o'clock in the morning on the range.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the instruction.